Only 2 months now until the election, only 7 days, though, until the debate. And James Carville has some unsolicited, I think, advice for Kamala Harris. The famous Democrat outlined 3 imperatives for her to beat Donald Trump. The first, Carville says, is that Harris has to let Trump sink himself at this next debate. The next one, Harris needs to highlight her policy differences with President Biden, something that she has yet to do. And finally, Harris must show that she has grown out of some of her political stances when she ran for president in 2020. With us now is pollster Frank Luntz. He's joining us in our 5th seat at the table. Frank, first of all, do you agree with those 3 points from James Carville? And is that really the formula for this next debate for her?
I'm not convinced. Now, I'm going to follow what James Carville says because he's had years of success. But that said, Trump's strongest position right now is the policy differences between him and Harris. Inflation, which I call affordability. Immigration, which I talk about national security and the sense of safety and security. These are areas where Trump has the advantage. If it's about personas, if it's about character, she wins, and she'll win easily. If it's about policy, Trump has a 10-point advantage on affordability, a 10-point, 12-point advantage on immigration. So he has to go. And the problem for Trump is he has the inability to do that. He has no self-control. He can't keep his criticisms. And if I'm her, I'm trying to find one word to summarize everything that she's thinking as Trump goes after her. And that word is really?
I have a feeling that we might hear that. I mean, actually, Frank, just going back to you for a second, the Post has a good headline kind of summarizing what we've been seeing a little bit in the polls. Biden is suddenly seeing his best polls in years. All of a sudden, the country is the same. Nothing has really changed since he left the race, but the voters view him more favorably now. I mean, so is it really about policy, or is it just because many of them thought that he was too old to run again?
He was absolutely too old. And it was not just the age, it was his inability to talk about the future. In the end, the number one value the public wants is a detailed plan of action. They don't want to be looking backward, they want to be looking ahead. And they question whether Biden was going to be strong enough 2 years from now, 4 years from now, let alone a year from now.
I think whatever the reason is that there's been one interview and not more than one interview, either way, Trump and the Trump campaign has not actually been able to weaponize that against the Harris campaign. I mean, that is pretty remarkable.
I think it's going to come. I'm watching what's happening on universities right now and the level of hate that's already being shown. Columbia was a disaster today in its first day. And I'm watching to see how she handles it, what happened in Israel 48 hours ago. And I've seen some of the tweets, both from Democrats and Republicans, saying these people, they were butchered, they were murdered. They didn't die, they were murdered. Or the idea that these are terrorists that are committing these crimes. And some outlets are not saying it. Richie Torres was brilliant in his tweet today about all of this. She's going to have to choose sides. Does she stand with the oppressors on the university, or does she stand for law and order?
Well, I think both of us are at the university. I don't think she's staying with any oppressors. The oppressors are not unique to universities. What she did at the convention was right. She talked about the undeniable evil that was revealed on October 7th, and she talks about the ongoing carnage and devastation of Palestinian people.
That's not.
We cannot. Let me finish. So we can't talk about being fair and just by talking about who's an oppressor and who's not without acknowledging the complex and nuanced analysis of what's going down there on the ground. So we can't dismiss 40 to 50,000 people who are dead as just compensation for the undeniable evil that occurred.
Sir, this is about anti-Semitism.
Look, I wrote in the New York Times about anti-Semitism. I take it seriously.
It's about hate.
It's about hatred of Jewish brothers and sisters. It's about the hatred of Islamic folk. And we've got to grapple with, yes, it is. It's both and, not either or. It's not equal.
When you try to equalize it.
I'm not equalizing. I'm talking about principles of justice. As a Baptist minister, I'm concerned about evil and the horrors of terror that are visited upon people. I'm worried about my Israeli brothers and sisters, and I'm worried about my brothers and sisters who are not Jewish as well.
These Jewish kids are afraid, and they're being attacked. We just finished You've got it
That
in the
is
control
wrong.
room.
That's
You have
absolutely
it
wrong.
It's not wrong. You have it in the
No,
control room.
I'm saying it's wrong to attack them. Is what
Okay,
I'm saying.
that is, okay, I accept that. But you have in your control, you can decide if you want to show it or not. What's happening on college campuses, these kids are actually being attacked. And at some point, she's going to have to take a point
Yeah, I
of
would
view.
like to see, look, any
American
assault
people should
upon
see it.
Jewish brothers and sisters is patently wrong. Any attack upon Islamic brothers
It's
and
not
sisters
happening.
is patently wrong. And to deny, if you're talking about a university,
Yes.
free speech, the ability of people to articulate their viewpoints,
Without
regulated
hate.
and governed by,
Without
of
hate.
course.
Look,
but you telling me as a
I
black
wanna
person
just
without
say,
hate, the
look,
kind of things we've been doing,
I'm
of course
telling
I
you,
believe
as,
that.
Frank, what I'm trying to
as a
understand
Jewish
here-
person
Frank-
about the hate.
Frank, what
I
I'm trying to
understand
understand
that,
here is
and I agree with that.
You're suggesting that Harris has not said anything about anti-Semitism when that's definitely not true. And it's also the case that her husband, who is Jewish, has led the administration's anti-Semitism efforts.
It's not enough. That's all I'm saying. If you saw hatred towards certain groups, you would speak
Yeah,
up.
I mean, look, I
hasn't been
agree with
enough.
you that there's too much. A little bit of anti-Semitism is too much. But I guess what I'm wondering is how you can say that that is a uniquely Kamala Harris problem.
It's
when-
a problem for the country. Every time I come on this show, I speak about understanding. I speak about finding common ground. I appreciate your comments. I respect them very much. We have to do something because it's starting again. And so in the debate, I believe she's going to be asked this question, as will Trump.
Right.
And the question is, does she try to equivocate, or is she very clear in what
But
she
see,
says?
this is